Chapter 6 Jivanmukthi. It is said that the goal of the spiritual world is to obtain mukti. Mukti also means liberation, freedom or awakening. We say that mukti is about getting freedom from samsara, the worldly affairs and the distress of mind. Vedanta talks about the ways in which freedom can be targeted. We should realize that we are the Atma. When we consider ourselves as Atma, we get rid of the problems. When we treat ourselves as body and Anatma, then only we feel that we are affected. An advertisement is shown like this. They show someone splashing water from a bucket on us. When we think that the splashed water may hit on us, they will show that the glass barrier between the water and us blocks the entire water. When we realize that there is no impact on the Atma, which is our natural state, we do not take responsibility for the distress of our mind and we get freedom from all such impacts. We get peace of mind by the absence of any such impacts on our mind. This is said to be freedom from samsara, bondage of worldly life and to attain mukti. But we had seen that we cannot feel and realize that we are the Atma. We also saw that we can only conclude based on the confirmation through our intellectual understanding that we ought to be the Atma. How far does this intellectual conclusion help us? Our issues related to samsara are nothing but our psychological experiences. These experiences of our mind become issues only when they cause problems and misery to us. If someone behaves indecently with us, the incident becomes an issue only when our mind suffers. It is not at all an issue when the mind does not suffer. Even when the external incident is problematic, it will not be treated as a problem as far as it does not cause misery to the mind. Mukti is something that is associated with the inner psychological mind and not with the outer physical world. What do we mean by mukti liberation that happens in the mind? What does it indicate when we say that we, as Jiva, should get freed from samsara? Among our psychological problems that are related to our mind, what is Jiva? What is the mukti of that Jiva? If we are in distress or fear, it affects us. We try to get rid of our distress or fear. If we are able to get rid of this distress and fear, does it mean that we have obtained mukti? Should we, Jiva, be freed of all the distress that is caused in our mind and from samsara? What is Jiva and what is samsara in us? We saw that we discriminate things using our thoughts. When we look at a tree, our thought enables us to discriminate that we and the tree are two different things. There is no separate thought to distinguish a tree and another separate thought to distinguish us. It is the same thought that distinguishes the two objects, us and the object that we see. In the same manner, our thoughts distinguish between the distress and happiness that we may face. It creates two different objects. One, the experience, and the other, the experiencer, the person who experiences. What occurs is only one experience. It may be distress or happiness, but when we know this through our thoughts, it becomes an experience by the experiencer. What happens next? The person who experiences that gets life. The experiencer is created. He intends to get rid of all those experiences. In reality, all the experiences are fresh every moment. Every moment one gets fresh thoughts. But there is a hallucination that there is someone that exists permanently. The experiencer gains strength till the moment he bears the burden of the responsibility to regulate and prune his experience. All experiences occur on their own and disappear on their own. We do not have to act upon that. Even though the experiencer understands this, he is not ready to keep quiet. He at least takes the new responsibility of giving freedom to the experiences. There will be two doors in many buses. What will happen when we try to alight the bus from the front door when we cling to the rear door? Similar is the situation when Jiva thinks of getting freed of samsara and distress. It is like trying to retain the experiencer but not the experience. The experiencer is also a part of the experience. But we all have a hallucination that there is someone as an experiencer who exists permanently apart from the experience. What we understand and feel in the name of Jiva is this experiencer only. But this experiencer himself is an experience only. In reality, there is only existence of the experience that appears and disappears. The appearance and disappearance of the experience alone exists. This experiencer exists as experience. This experience exists also as Jiva. It appears justified if we say we must aim at getting freed of all the distress and fear. But when we say we should get liberated from Jiva, it appears as a nonsense. But the true liberation happens only this way. Jiva getting freed of samsara is not Jivanmukthi. Jivanmukthi is the freedom that the Jiva attains from the Jiva itself. What should be done to be liberated from the Jiva? Whatever we do, liberation does not occur. On the contrary, whatever we do, responsibility will proceed. Burden will arise. Future will develop. Attachment occurs. Samsara ensues. Jiva gets strength because of the thoughts of getting freed of the attachment or samsara. When we think of liberating Jiva, one more Jiva who wants to liberate this Jiva is created. Responsibility alone creates Jiva. Responsibility alone creates future and attachment. As long as responsibility is there, there will be bonding and attachment, which is nothing but Jiva. Lack of responsibility removes the bonding and attachment of Jiva and liberates the Jiva. When do we take responsibility? Only when we need something to be achieved. What do we need? We should get what we like, or we should get rid of what we do not like. We like to retain pleasure and get rid of suffering and distress. This is what we need. We take responsibility only towards this necessity. Jiva gets strength as long as responsibility is with it. The bonding called Jiva is strengthened. The bonding and the attachment become laid back when the entire responsibility disappears. In the state of this loose bonding, Jiva gets liberated, gets sanctified, attains Mukti liberation. How to attain this responsibility-free state? Even the desire to attain this state also causes a responsibility. Hence, this state does not become a possibility through our desires and the effort we put in. Then, how does something that is not possible through our desires and effort become a possibility? Let us take another overview of how it becomes a possibility. How will a person without any responsibility be? How will such a person act? Please do not imagine the persons that do not want to take any kind of responsibility. How will a responsible person be when he has gotten rid of all the responsibilities? Let us say we are going for a walk in the evening. It is common that we do the walking through the streets where there is less traffic. Let us say we are going for a walk one day and we have a commitment to give a piece of cloth to the tailor shop that is on the way we usually go every day. The street is usually empty. But on this day, a part of the road is dug up to such an extent that we cannot enter the street. The only way to reach the tailor shop is to take a roundabout way through another street. Hence, giving that piece of cloth has become a work that day. We do it as a work. Let us look at this example in a different way. We go for walking in this manner every day. We take the usual route every day, but we do not have any kind of work on the way. No work like giving cloth to the tailor. The usual road has been dug up. It is not mandatory to enter that particular road. So, we leave that road and take a different road to continue our walking. In the first example, there is responsibility. The disruption caused in executing that responsibility gives us trouble. In the second example, we do not have any responsibility. Hence, there is a freedom in our action. We take it easy choosing the next street if the usual one is not fit for walking. We feel the freedom in the responsibility-free state. Thus, Jiva, which does not take any responsibility, grabs the freedom of being whatever way it wants to be. The I, which is the Jiva that has liberated, transforms into a stream. Similar to the way we allow the experiences to flow like a stream, we also leave the Jiva, the individual self, the experiencer, to flow as a stream. The transformation of this Jiva into a flowing stream is called Jivanmukthi, liberation of the Jiva. How does the Mukti of the Jiva become possible? If this Jiva considers itself as the form of Sat Chit Ananda, it does not take any responsibility. Our Jiva gets liberated because we believe ourselves as Atma by having faith in the truth and the logic that manifests in the Shastras, holy scriptures. It is sufficient if our mind that acts as Jiva considers itself as the form of Sat Chit Ananda in a language that is understandable. Our ordinary language is enough. In total, the center of the activities of the mind, the central part called the experiencer, the center called as the Jiva, shall act in total liberation, shall act like a freely flowing stream, or otherwise, as per the approach of Shastras, we should consider this Jiva called I, which comprises character and affair, as Anatma only. We should consider the nature of this Anatma as the snaky appearance of the rope or a shadow. Let the shadow be. What it be, we should give total freedom to the shadow, which is called I. We should remain without any responsibility, without any work, leaving the Jiva called I to act in any way it wants to act. As far as the inner psychological feelings are concerned, the psychological experiences are concerned, we can remain without any work. But will this apply to the external actions also? Can we remain without any responsibility or work? The psychological feelings and experiences cannot be distinguished as superior or inferior. They are all shadows, transient, deceptive appearances that come and go. We need not do anything about these. They come on its own and disappear on its own. But the external actions are not like these. They are not just appearances. Unlike the transient psychological emotions, external actions are very much real. The human beings and trees that we see are real, true and alive. Inner psychological happenings are all just deceptions and hallucinations. But outer physical happenings are real and true. Inner events are alterable on their own. We do not have any work there. But external actions are not like these. They are not transient mirages that appear and fade away. The psychological happenings and emotions of the inner world are like the rope appearing as a snake. It disappears when it gets light. But if we see a snake in the outer physical world, it is just not an image. If there is light, the image of the snake will be clearer. This snake that we see outwardly will go away only when we do something to shoo it away, because it is just not an impression. It is a true one. Let us now come to the next level. We either get fearful or sad. What do we do next? We feel that we have got fear or sorrow. We understand that we do not like that fear or sorrow. We like to get rid of the fear and sorrow. Fear and sorrow are the first level experience. The realization that these emotions have occurred in me is the second level experience. Fear and sorrow are the first level. I is the second level. Fear is just the experience. I is the experiencer. Please record this in your mind. Let us go to the next. Now, I really see a snake. This is an outer scene. This is an external event. Here, the snake is the first level. I that see the snake is the second level. I may see the snake or a tree or a mountain. We consider whatever we see as the first level. We consider ourselves as the second level. Now, let us look at both the outer and inner events collectively. The feature called I comes into contact with something or the other. As far as the inner scene is concerned, I is the experiencer. I feel the fear or despair as my inner psychological experience. This I, who is the experiencer, is the second level experience as far as the inner psychological world is concerned. Even for the outer physical world also, the I remains as the second level experience. As far as the outer physical world is concerned, this second level I remains as something that sees the snake or shoos away the snake, someone who is in action. In the inner psychological world, it is the experiencer. In the outer physical world, it is the doer, one who takes action. The inner experiences and the experiencer who experiences these are just an experience of the mind, the transient mental activity that comes and disappears. Who is this doer that acts in the outer physical world? Similar to the reality of the snake, does this person who acts, doer, who sees the snake and shoos it away, really exist? Whether the experience called I is caused by either the experiencer or the doer, both are psychological experiences only. Both are psychological aspects only, shadow aspects alone. Whether this jiva called I comes into contact with the inner psychological world or outer physical world, it is a transient image caused by the mind, a shadow image designed by our thoughts. This jiva called I is not at all responsible for transforming and regulating the inner psychological world. Hence, he is free of responsibility as far as the inner psychological world is concerned. In the absence of any responsibility, his experiences disappear like a stream. He, who is the experiencer, also blends with the stream and disappears. But what is his state as far as the outer physical world is concerned? For the outer physical world, this jiva has responsibilities. There are actions. He can transform and regulate only by actions. External activities do not become all right on their own. They become all right only when they are set right. As far as the outer physical world is concerned, actions are first level. The doer, who is the I, is the second level. For the inner psychological world, experience is the first level. The experiencer, who is the I, is the second level. Are the experiencer that has merged with the inner psychological world and the doer that has merged with the outer physical world different? Or are they same? Both are one. Call it the experiencer by coming into contact with the inner psychological world, or the doer by coming into contact with the outer physical world. Both are one and the same. The Jiva is a psychological aspect. I is also psychological aspect. When we are afraid, we feel that we are affected. When we are in despair, we feel that we are affected. Like these, we feel affected if the things that happen are not to our liking. We feel affected when our ideas are opposed. This person who is affected is Jiva, the individual self. It is essential that this Jiva gets Mukti. This affected person only should get liberation. It is enough if he lets him free without taking any responsibility of managing himself. He will get freedom on his own. He will get liberation on his own. He need not establish himself as one who transforms the outer physical world. It is good for both the Jiva and his actions to let free without attaching much importance to him. The outer environment that we have come into contact may be problematic and challenging. It may continue to be an unresolved issue. But Jiva that is in contact with this issue is not true. Jiva is nothing but the psychological experience that occurs intermittently. Jiva is the aspect of Anatma, the non-conscious factor. It is the form of mind that is anitya, transient. The intermittent changes that occur in Jiva only can lead to the total liberation. It keeps changing that way. Shastras term this freedom of the Jiva as the dissolution of the self. This Jiva becoming a successful warrior in inner psychological world is not right. Jiva should always be ready to lose. As far as the inner psychological world is concerned, failure is success. Success is failure. Success is that Jiva exists as a stream. Getting freed of the permanent form is success. Attaining Mukti is success. If Jiva attains liberation in this way, will it affect the actions to be taken in the outer physical world? If the doer attains liberation this way, will it affect the actions to be taken in the outer physical world? In reality, only when the doer attains liberation, the outer actions related to him get completed well. A liberated mind only helps in action. To attain Mukti, Jiva only should understand itself, be it Atma or Anatma. If he fumbles this or that way, Atma or Anatma, it will affect the liberation also. Liberation of Jiva, individual self, is possible only when there is confirmation and faith in its discovery.